Okay, so I just looked up Google's definition of forgiveness because I think that's important to this video, okay? So Google's definition is excusing somebody for, or stop being resentful or angry at somebody for some sort of mistake or thing that they did towards you, right? Which I think is a pretty good definition. And I think a lot of people struggle with forgiveness because of one reason, which is when someone does something so heinous, something so difficult, or something that hurts you so much, we tend to think that our forgiveness is telling them it's okay, right? It's just letting them know, like, okay, well, despite what you've done and how much it hurts, I'm gonna forgive you because, God says, because, that's what I'm supposed to do. And we get into this phase, all of us throughout our lives get into a phase of, do I want to be a good person right now or do I not? And the more emotions that we feel, the more hurt that we feel towards someone or something, lets us know how much we can forgive them. So, for example, the more resentful you are or the more angry you are towards someone for doing something, it's harder to forgive, right? So somebody who happens to like bump into you in the street, you're more likely to forgive that person unless you have trauma with being bumped into and it hurts you that much. But if it's a complete stranger and you can kind of sort of see how that's a mistake and you can kind of sort of excuse the action, to some degree, you're more likely to forgive it. You're more likely to forget it within the next like 10 minutes, right? Especially if you're having an amazing day, you probably won't even look at it as a malicious act. But if you're having a really difficult day, you're more likely to look at it as a malicious act, to see the universe is against you to X, Y, and Z, which then would make you hold on to that resentment towards that person for bumping into you. And now you've created a deeper, meaning to that bump into, instead of it just being an accident. And that comes from pain. That comes from anger. That comes from a lot of emotions that you probably have not processed and or allowed yourself to really work through, right? So forgiveness, I think, is something that, in religion, and I can't speak to everybody's religion, but in my life growing up, religion has taught me that forgiveness is good because God forgives you and that's what you're supposed to do. That is the good thing to do. The Christian thing to do is to forgive. No one's really taught me how to forgive. No one's really taught me the importance of forgiveness other than God's love, which I think goes so much deeper than that, right? And I think as you start to grow and ask questions and figure out like, what is really forgiveness, you start to recognize that forgiveness isn't just being obedient to God and being obedient to, the religious beliefs and Bible and things of that sort. Forgiveness, it's a deeper thing. It's about you. It's about freeing yourself from the anger and the resentment that you may feel towards whatever heinous or malicious act that was acted upon you or towards you. And I think that the struggle that I see a lot of people have, because I've talked to clients about forgiveness and I've talked to family members about forgiveness, friends, things of that sort, and everybody kind of has the same vibe. Either we act like we totally forgive something, but we're still hurting about it, or we are in a position of thinking, no, I'm not forgiving this person. And those who say, I forgive them, et cetera, there's still a level of holding on to the pain. And what I have learned about forgiveness is forgiveness is not and never has been about the other person. It's not about excusing anybody. It's not about, getting somebody to, or getting yourself to say, you know what, I'm no longer mad at you for what it is that you did. It's actually not about that. It's actually about freeing yourself from the pain in the box that you have put yourself in due to whatever heinous act, malicious act, or act that was brought onto you that hurts you. It's freedom. And I didn't recognize that forgiveness was freedom, but freedom happens to be one of my top values. And it's something that I genuinely care about in ways that you have no idea. And in looking for freedom, I've always been a rebel, just the one that didn't care to listen. I wanted to do things my own way. I'm still like that, but I have a lot more structure. I'm a little more mature. However, forgiveness was something that I started to, I would forgive just about anybody, right? I would just forgive everybody. And, I had no problems with anybody. I was good with everybody. It's like, oh, you did this horrible thing. No problem. I'll always love you. And what happened was all of that resentment, all of that pain, all of that anger, I did release it towards the person. I just placed it onto me. And the thing that we don't recognize is the energy of anger and the feelings that we hold, even when we think we're just over it, it most likely is just being transmuted into our own self. It's being transmuted into a different space. And I was definitely one of those people. I was one of the people that absolutely put myself in the position of just taking on everything. Like I was the problem in every situation. You could hurt me to the depths of my soul and I was still the problem, right? And even when it's not about being the problem or who's the problem, who's to blame, I just always was the problem. I always seen myself as the issue, and I always held myself to not even a high standard, but I always held myself actually to the standard of you're gonna fuck this up, or you're the reason why your life sucks, or whatever the case is. And to some degree, that's true, right? To some degree, the reason why I was so hard on myself was because I knew that I could make a different choice. I knew that I could be better. But really, what it was saying is you're hurting, right? I'm hurting. I am in pain. I am struggling to forgive what has happened, because even if I forgive the person, I haven't forgiven what has happened, right? And instead I'm holding on to it, and instead I am going through replaying it in my head and seeing it and saying, why didn't I do this and why didn't I do that? There's a level of resentment and regret and things of that sort that I'm holding in my heart, but it's deep down under, and I'm convincing myself that it doesn't exist, but it exists. It's in my face, actually. It's right there. And I read Radical Forgiveness, and it just gave me perspective that was so incredibly important. I won't ruin it for you because I think everybody should read it. And I think that you should read it and take it in for yourself. Think about your own life with it. But the examples in there are amazing, and the way that he explains forgiveness is fantastic. But I really want to talk about the idea that forgiveness is truly probably the most selfish act of self-love. And when you first hear selfish, I'm sure you're thinking to yourself, like, that's not good. Like, I don't want to be selfish. But I'm a firm believer that being selfish is actually extremely important, right? We learn that being selfish is a bad thing. But I genuinely think that in order for us to really live our life and in our purpose, we do need to put our own self above others. And I'm a firm believer in that. I don't believe in only caring about yourself and never caring about others. I don't believe in that. But I do believe that in order for us to grow and expand and become the best versions of ourselves, a level of selfishness is necessary. It is not the worst thing in the world. I don't even think it's necessarily a problem per se. But people could beg to differ. Who knows? However, my perspective is you need a level of selfishness. And when you forgive someone, that's you being selfish. You're not doing it for them. Because your intention around forgiveness should be freedom. It shouldn't be something that you're just doing on a surface level and telling yourself, well, I forgive them because, I'm a holy person and I'm connected to God and I'm a divine being. And so therefore I forgive you, and that's that. I think forgiveness is boss. Okay. I think when you forgive someone, you're basically letting them know, hey, you couldn't shake me if you tried. You couldn't break me if you tried. You attempted to hurt me so much so that you thought that this hurt was going to ruin my life or ruin my moment or ruin my shine. And instead, I took it, I healed through it, I transmuted it, and I'm better than ever because I'm learning my lessons, I'm holding up my boundaries, and I'm becoming a better version of myself. I think when you forgive someone, you're really putting yourself in the position of saying, you know what? Under no circumstances am I okay with holding on to an energy that had no positive intentions towards me anyway. Under no circumstances am I okay with going through such a difficult time or such a difficult moment with someone or with something and letting that energy decide and dictate how I'm going to move throughout the rest of my life. Under no circumstances am I going to let resentment and anger live inside of me subconsciously and low key that it makes me miss out on opportunities that are God sent. When you decide to forgive yourself, when you say, I forgive me, I love me, I am choosing me, I think what that does is it puts you in the position of freeing yourself from everything that has you in handcuffs, everything that isn't allowing you to expand, everything that isn't allowing you to see the blessing in the lesson, right? And people think and have this like really strong belief that forgiveness is for the other person, right? It's about, excusing them, or it's about choosing to love them through the heartache and the hardship, but it's not, right? Almost, and I mean this, there's really nothing we do that isn't for us, even when we're doing things selflessly, right? If you go and you feed someone on the street, right, that is in need, or you help someone in need, period, yes, you may be doing it for them selflessly. You're thinking about them, you're like, oh my God, I want to help you, but that's still about you, right? It's still something you're doing for you, you and your soul, whether it just makes you happy, whether you just feel like you want to be just, you have a good act, do something kind, whatever the case may be, it's still about you. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? People have this fear of being selfish, or people see selfishness as this negative thing because we're all conditioned to believe that selfishness is a negative thing, but it's not. Actually, I genuinely believe that if you are selfish in the right way, so I do think that there's a great way to be selfish, and then there is a little bit of a toxic way to be selfish, but I think that's for everything, right? But if you are selfish in a positive way, it actually allows you to really tap into your highest energy, your highest self, and do things based off of who you truly are. And that's a beautiful thing, right? So when you're doing this kind act, it makes you feel better. That's selfish. And it's selfless because you're helping somebody else in the midst of making you feel better. I don't see anything wrong with that. Forgiveness is the same thing. You're not forgiving someone because you're saying, hey, by the way, how you hurt me and what you did to me is just so okay, and please continue doing what you're doing. That's not what you're saying. What you're saying is, I see you. I see what you've done to me. I seen how it affected me. I see how much I'm hurting from it. And I'm choosing to free myself from that kind of energy. And what you do is, as you forgive someone, you also learn from that time, because that pain that you feel, that sense of anger you feel, that resentment that you feel is teaching you something. And what it's teaching you is your boundaries. It's teaching you what you don't accept in your life, what you're not interested in having in your life. And when you give yourself the opportunity to say, you know what? I hated that. I didn't like that feeling. I wasn't interested in that thing, right? When you give yourself the opportunity to be real with yourself, and when you feel through it, this is not just to like go through something and be like, I'm going to forgive you because at the end of the day, you're not going to try me. No. You want to feel through it. Ooh, ow, that hurt. Ooh, ow, that hurt. That was uncomfortable. I don't like that. That actually got me very sad. That actually got me very angry. I need to sit with this for a second. When you give yourself the opportunity to do that, when you love yourself enough to let yourself feel through whatever it is that's happening, whether it's someone doing something to you, a situation that's happening, when you give yourself the opportunity to feel through it, you're actually allowing your emotions to express to you what this means for you. Your emotions are consistently letting you know what you feel comfortable in and what you don't. And you get to take that information that your emotions are providing you and say, okay, cool. Here's what I'm not allowing anymore in my life. Here's where I need to grow a little bit more. Here's where I'm scared about something that I genuinely want in my life. Or here's where I thought I wanted something in my life that I genuinely don't. Right? And that sense of clarity for yourself is giving you a moment to recognize, especially if it's a situation you need to forgive later on, it's giving you a moment to recognize where you're hurt, what hurts you about the situation, right? Why is this a problem for you? It's giving you time to process what's going on a deeper level, right? When that can feel deeper based off of your karma, that can feel deeper based off of, how you view things. Usually when there's situations we need to forgive, it's changing our perspective around something. It's helping us to understand something, right? So when you're in a position of seeing yourself needing to forgive something, it's an opportunity. And before you jump into forgiveness, you have to give yourself the opportunity to feel the feelings you're feeling. because those feelings are literally telling you exactly what you need to know about this situation, which then may most likely tell you how you are operating in relationships or operating in certain situations where you need to get it together. So for example, for me, in my business, I was dealing with people left and right, doing readings for them at one point, coaching them, doing all this stuff. And I was just so trustworthy of every client I've ever had, because everybody that said they're going to pay pays. Everybody that says they're going to show up usually shows up. I hardly had issues like that. I had this soul and deep belief in people. When it came to what they say, I believed them and I trusted them. And there was one situation where somebody had paid me for a service, right? They got a reading from me. I did their reading for them. They got their reading. They replied to me how amazing that reading was and how they needed it and all that stuff. It's like, you're so welcome. I've worked with this person before. I felt really, great about this person. I felt great about the reading. I felt great about everything. And then all of a sudden, I think it was like maybe a week or two later, that same person goes and files a dispute for the service I gave them. Mind you, this is during a time where I am struggling, okay? If you know me, you know some of my story, and I went through 2 years or a year and a half of just straight up being homeless and struggling. So every single dollar really counted. Every dollar was important for me. This person files a dispute with PayPal, tells PayPal that they never made that purchase. So now I look at the person, I'm shocked at who it is, but I'm like, maybe, what? I don't know what to think. Maybe this is what? And PayPal automatically takes it out. So now we owe a certain amount. I don't even have anything in my account right now. As a matter of fact, I'm praying to God, asking God, please send me some money. And instead it was taken. And I'm like, oh my God, this is crazy, right? And so I reach out to this person and I say, hey, PayPal's reaching out to me, telling me that you never got the service. I sent, screenshots. I sent all this stuff to PayPal and to her saying, hey, it's clear you got the service, the payment, all of that. You knew what was going on. We were in contact. What's going on? Could you please explain it to me? I don't hear from them for a while. And then I get this response like, oh my God, I am so incredibly sorry. I don't know what happened. I thought I did something else. Let me know right now so I can make sure you have your money, all this stuff. So I started feeling better and I was like, oh, okay, cool. It was just an accident, no problem. After that response, I was like, oh my God, thank you so much. No problem. I never heard from her again, ever. Mind you, I'm in one of the toughest moments of my life, right? That money alone could actually help us get to where we need to go, right? Because at that point we were sleeping in our cars. And so it was one of those things where I just didn't know how to move forward. I didn't know what to do in that moment. I was livid. When I tell you my heart was just heavy, I got hot. I was like, I can't believe this is happening right now. And I haven't experienced anything like it. And so I was just like, well, in my business, I didn't experience that from a client at all, especially considering we were in contact and all that stuff. And it was really tough. It was hard, but I was sitting there and I was talking to my sister about it. And I cried. I felt all the feelings and I wanted to just throw a fit. I was struggling that day when all of this went down. It just seemed like bad news after bad news after bad news after bad news. And so it was just tough, right? But something happened in the midst of all that. I just started to understand, one, I need to tighten up, right, with how I'm doing business with people, right? There's this free, comfortable situation of just send me the money and then, I'll do the reading and no problem, without any real legal, agreement or anything like that. There was a lot of stuff that I had to think about with how am I running my business? What is this telling me about my business, right? Then I had to rethink my relationship with PayPal, because why are you not protecting me too? I get that other person's being protected, but why am I being hit, right? If I have a relationship with you, I've been using you for such a long time. this has been a great connection. Not only did they go and hit me with that, but then on top of that, they also went and kind of flagged my account on some, because somebody has done this, now all of your money's on hold. And we had like thousands of dollars on hold at one point. And I was like, this is the money I'm supposed to use to like get inside, to live off of right now. What do I do, right? So I had to reevaluate my relationship there. And then I had to reevaluate my own personal standards and boundaries and my relationship with money as a whole. And I started realizing, where are my belief systems around money? What's my belief around certain things? I started realizing my attachment to money as a whole and to people. I was really dependent on these readings coming through. I was really dependent on my business getting me to where I was going, so much so that I had to reevaluate it and say, okay, where am I putting more of my faith? Am I putting more faith into people in my business or more faith into God? And so I had to reevaluate all that stuff. And through understanding how much it's getting me, how triggered I am, how angry I am, because I was going through a lot at the time and could overcome a lot of different stuff. But that specific moment where I felt cheated and I felt like, I did the work and it didn't work and it wasn't just about that moment. It wasn't just about that person. It wasn't just about that situation. It was so much deeper than that. There was so much more going on. And that was the moment that I really understood my faith in how I'm going to get out of my situation, my faith in how I'm going to move through my situation had less to do with God and more to do with people, more to do with things, physical things. And that wasn't working for me. It still took me a long time to recognize that was going on, but that started the conversation. It started my relationship back up with God, of being much, much closer, and not just relying on God and my divine team to help me in my business or to provide messages to people, but actually diving deep and remembering why I'm on the journey I'm on in the first place and my purpose and things of that sort. And so that same day when I went through, the process of everything and really connected and I did my reading, I did all that stuff, I had to just forgive her. Mind you, in that moment, I had to decide that I'm going to forgive her and not ask her for the money, not ask her for anything. I had to decide that, but it still took a few weeks for me to actually feel like I forgave her. And that's because there was work that I had to do for myself. There was work that I had to do within myself in order for me to do that. And so forgiveness as a whole, it just wasn't about her anymore. She could think she got away with it, right? Maybe she needed money. You know what I mean? Whatever the case may be, it wasn't about her anymore. Before I was making it about her. She cheated me. She's an asshole. She's this, she's that. All I said was, let me put up a boundary. Because this went down this way, she can never get anything from me again, period. And so she was blocked from being able to work with me. And that was my boundary that I stood on, period. And I think what happened there was I still had to work through a lot of different stuff, but it opened the door. And I could only see that because I was willing to forgive. And in the process of forgiveness, I realized that I have to free myself from a few things. I have to free myself from, the way that I'm thinking. I have to free myself from how much I was like so dependent on people to help. I had to free myself from certain things, and I had to let go of how I thought everything was going to happen and really focus on, my path and God and myself and things of that sort. And so forgiveness, it had nothing to do with her. Forgiveness isn't about the other person. It's always going to be about you. It's always going to be you forgiving you so that you can be free, you can grow, you become the best version of yourself. It's just not about them. And we do this thing where we disservice ourselves and dishonor ourselves when we make forgiveness about them, when we make everything about other people. That's what keeps us in the box and in the cycle of anger and pain. And we tell ourselves that we're over it because we hide it, because we take it and we box it up, because we take that exact thing, that exact situation, that exact pain, and we tell ourselves we don't feel it anymore. We lie to ourselves about it. And then we do this thing where we're like, either I forgive them, it's fine, and then place all of that pain onto us, or get mad about things that don't even make us mad, or we decide I'm not forgiving them because they don't deserve it. It's true. They don't deserve it. But your forgiveness of them isn't about them. It's not about them deserving it. It's, do you deserve it? Do you deserve to be free? Do you deserve to allow yourself to get out of that pain? Do you deserve to not repeat the cycle again and again so you don't have to keep relearning the same thing? When that first situation happened, I was able to forgive her, but I was still learning the same messages and the same things because I didn't fully get it in that moment. So now it looks like the universe is against me, when in reality, the universe is saying, let it go. Let it go so that you can focus back on you. Let it go so that you can be free from all of the pain that this is causing you, because it's not just this one situation that's causing it. It's a few things that's causing this pain. Let it go. Forgive her so that you can wake up to who you are. Forgive yourself so that you can expand further than the box you're allowing yourself to stay in. So when you think about forgiveness, I want you to think about it as the greatest act of self-love. The greatest act of seeing yourself, loving yourself, and knowing yourself enough to say, you know what? I'm just not letting people and things shake me up so much that I don't get to live my life, that I don't get to expand further than this situation right here. And because we don't learn about forgiveness, or we don't learn to see it in this exact way, we do get stuck. We do get kind of, in this cycle, get stuck in this cycle of just not allowing ourselves to expand, not allowing ourselves to do what we need to do. We just keep repeating the same old things again and again and again. And as we continue forward, I will be explaining stuff that has happened in my life, things I've learned from my divine team, things I've learned from my journey of hardship and success, and really expressing like all the different ways and all the different lessons that I've learned through here, because it's just, the lessons of life is no joke, Boo Bop. And I really do feel like there's something that's starting to stir within people where everybody is waking up and everybody's connecting deeper to themselves and, following God. And I love that. What I don't want is for us to still be trapped in our minds and just fall into the trap of being conditioned and only doing things because someone on the internet said to, or all the spiritualists are saying something, or all the coaches are saying something. I want us to really connect back to ourselves. And the best way to do that is to free our minds. And that's why I talk about my journey and I talk about things and lessons that I've learned, because a lot of freedom is actually in the things that we don't want to do. Forgiveness, it's just never been about anybody but you. That's why it's so necessary. It's about you. There's nothing that you could do that could actually hurt me and make me hold on to it. When you think about God forgiving you, when you think about how God loves you so much, we make it about us. God forgave me. God opened the door for me. God sent his son for my sins. And that's a beautiful sentiment. And it's what we kind of emulate love after. But God is also a very selfish God. I genuinely believe that. And like I said, selfish is a beautiful thing. God doesn't forgive you for you. God forgives you because God's like, you couldn't hurt me if you tried. I'm not worried. I know who I am. I know my power. You're hurting you, right? Those people that do this negative thing to you, they're hurting themselves. God's like, I see what's happening. You're going to make your way back to me anyway. I see what's happening. You don't know any better, or you do, but you're choosing something else. There's nothing I could do about that. So I'm not about to be hurt and not be the God that I am because you did whatever you did. I forgive you. I forgive you before you do it. I forgive you because I know that you're capable of doing it and you may choose to do it. And that's okay. It's not going to bother me so much. And even when, because I do believe that God is serious about us, when we do make mistakes, I think God goes, oh. I think God gets disappointed. I think God hurts for us. I think God sees us crying and we feel it, and and God's just like, oh man, my baby. But God forgives fast because God's like, it doesn't hurt me. This could only ever be personal to you. When you run away from your purpose, when you're not showing up the way you need to, when you sin, when you do negative things, that's about you, Boo Bop. That's not about me. I genuinely think that that's how God sees us. And so when I think about being a mirror, or I think about God living within me, I think about how God is saying, hey, I just want you to love yourself so much. I want you to love you so much. I want you to forgive yourself and forgive everybody around you, because at the end of the day, you do deserve that freedom. You do deserve to live your life and expand your life. But if you let anger and if you let resentment stay inside of you, you will actively stop yourself from growing, actively stop yourself from receiving the opportunities that are showing up in your life because of this anger. And that's not fair to you. There's no reason for you to do that. So forgive, my child. Forgive. Because if you forgive, you free yourself. You take all of that energy that you're pouring out and you pour it back in, and you transmute it into expansion. You transmute it into positivity. You transmute it into love. That's what forgiveness is. That's what forgiveness does. That's what forgiveness is for. And that's how we need to start seeing forgiveness, so that when things do happen, because things will happen, you're not holding on to it and then scared to take a risk, to go towards something else, to love again, to express again, to connect again. That is so incredibly important. So we're gonna leave that right there. Boo Bop, I really hope that this was helpful in some way. Whether you're forgetting something big, small, forgiveness as a whole, I think, is something that we're always practicing. And I think the first person you need to start with is forgiving yourself, and understand that the journey in forgiveness is not just, yeah, forgive me, okay, cool. It is a process, and it's a process where it's going to take time. You consistently take time, but you give yourself the opportunity to just recognize that you just simply deserve that sense of freedom. You deserve to free yourself from that sense of resentment. You deserve to breathe through it. Take 10 deep breaths as you forgive yourself. Ask your highest self, how can I best forgive me? Start with you. And then go down the line of people who have hurt you, or situations that you are in that you're still resenting, that you're still angry towards. And let it be personal to you. Let it be something that you are allowing yourself to talk about if you don't feel comfortable saying it out loud, right? Talking to a professional, whatever the case may be. Have that real conversation with you. Journal it out. Let yourself feel the feelings, because usually we're afraid to feel our feelings because we're afraid of what we might do or how long it will last. But the reality is the more you let yourself feel your feelings, and you don't judge your feelings, and you don't try to stop your feelings from being felt, you're actually just allowing them to speak to you. You're allowing them to connect with you so that you understand what the feeling is telling you. And over time, even when that feeling comes up, you can actually regulate it. Your nervous system, you start to regulate. You start to understand, oh, my body is reacting this way because it's telling me something. It is trying to figure out, do we fight or do we flight? Forgiveness is your freedom. Period. So I hope this was helpful. I want to thank you so much for sticking around. If you have questions, if this is something that you're like, ooh, I want to know more about this, or how do I forgive that, or whatever the case may be, write it in the comments, right? Let me know what's going on, what's your situation, or how can I help? Because I'm here to speak on my story and what I've been through, but I also coach. And so I'm happy to talk about these things, okay? Until the next one, I'm sending you love. Bye.